Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How did you feel about the movie? How does it compare to Meg 2?
It's definitely the better movie. It's definitely the better. It's
Jackie Chan's in it, which is so cool.
And that was the first voice that I noticed in the movie. So I'm like, wait, that's Splint. Wait, that sounds like Jackie Chan. Because like I noticed the accent. I'm like, that is, and then like 10 minutes later, I'm like, that is Jackie Chan. And then like the first time I saw Ice Cube's character, like Superfly, I'm like, that is Ice Cube. Like that, I had no idea he was in the movie.
Seth Rogen is in it as well as John Cena, but they did get like actual kids to voice the turtles, which I think is cool. Yeah. Like that's a really good voiceover, and obviously Andrew can speak more to that than I can, but it's definitely it's always kind of nice when you have kids actually playing kids versus like adults playing kids, because that gets a little like sometimes.
Yeah, it gets tricky, and also you end up in a situation where it doesn't sound as authentic, because especially with this movie, like this movie was filled with references, like cultural references of all kinds, whether they're referencing like the Mark Ruffalo scene in Avengers Endgame where he's like the Hulk and he doing autographs, and we know famously that he improvised some of that scene in Avengers Endgame, and so they're referencing that all the time. They're referencing a bunch of other like movies and TV shows throughout the whole movie. There's like the pizza stuff, and they talk like real teenagers would talk. Like it feels very authentic. So like the dialogue feels like real. Like there's no, these are pretending to be kids that I just happen to be these Ninja Turtles. No, and it's a grounded movie too in terms of like what these characters want, like, and what they're not able to do because they're turtles, and like the world kind of they haven't had a good experience being around humans, and it's a really fantastic story of learning to live in to be accepted by the humans, and like earning that acceptance, and being felt like feeling like outsiders in the beginning, and then even when people don't trust you, still doing the right thing, and then through your actions earning that trust. So that there's a very heartfelt, character-based, grounded story behind it all. The only downside to this movie that I thought was, and this is very subjective, I think for a lot of people this will be no problem whatsoever, the animation style kind of bothered me, because
that's what I said. I was like, I saw the trailer and I was like, it looks weird.
Because I've seen a lot of movies do that, but like, so here's the thing. The thing that bothered me wasn't so much the drawing style. It was the issue was the frame rate. There was way too much of this movie that felt like it was 12 frames per second than I would have liked for there to be, which basically meant like I was seeing like choppy video almost, right? You're seeing like images move, which I'm like, if I wanted to go watch something that was entirely like anime, which is done like 12 frames per second to save cost, then I would go watch a Dragon Ball Z TV show episode. But like with Spider-Verse movies, for example, which basically started this whole trend, they vary the frame rate depending on like what element in this shot they want to show at 12 frames per second. The other ones are at 24, sometimes at 18, so that you're getting smooth motion in a lot of places, but you're getting choppy motion for effect in times. This movie, it felt like almost all the time was at 12 frames per second, and it was just a little jarring, because I just felt, because at that point it's hard to kind of put the motion together between the images, between each frame. So I got used to it for a little bit, but then there was definitely scenes where I just kept getting like, wait,
you just kept focusing on that rather than actually
look away, or like
the movie.
It was distracting. So I just felt like maybe they didn't get the balance right there as much as they should have. But I will say, like, compared to like the Michael Bay movies, the character designs for the turtles were very effective, because
the cartoons too.
And like the cartoon, you can individually identify each turtle very distinctly in this movie. Not only because of like the mask that they wear, each is a different color, but because they're physically don't all look like they're the same height, the same build and everything. They each have like a different sort of like body shape, slightly different height, and facial features and stuff. And then they also did a fantastic job of really bringing out the personality of each turtle and giving each of those personalities space to breathe, and giving them all mini character arcs. So you never felt like you could combine all four of them into one character. They felt like four distinct characters.
Remembering the cartoons, and even, I don't know if I saw the Michael Bay movies, I'll be honest. I remember the cartoons, like when I think back to it, they were all sort of just, they were the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like it wasn't, I don't even remember each of their names. I think one was like Michelangelo or something like that.
There's Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, and I'm forgetting one's name.
Yeah, so like exactly what you
Leonardo.
said. They all sort of conglomerate into one entity, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for me.
Yep.
So would you say that this is definitely sort of like a positive expanse on that universe? Like
Absolutely.
a positive step forward. They just really need to fix the graphics because that sounds
I just think the animation style could be a little more
not it.
Like movie friendly, like in motion sick. It was like a weird kind of motion sickness effect. But outside of that, the story, the way this plays out, and it kind of sets the stage for them to do more down the road. They're definitely, I think the way the movie ends, it's sort of designed to, lead to more sequels, hopefully, if this one does well. And, they kind of leave it pretty open-ended. The April O'Neil character, I think, was done a lot of justice in this movie, whereas it felt like a more one-dimensional stereotype like and sexualized character with the Megan Fox playing it in the Michael Bay movies, which is a Michael Bay movie, so like you expect there's like a certain thing with like how he treats certain characters. But in this movie I just felt like even the April, like her character had a whole story arc to herself. You cared about the character, her motivations, who she is at the beginning of the movie to like where she ends up at the end. And it's kind of the biggest thing that I appreciated was it didn't feel it by the end of the movie, it felt like everybody on the team as a whole had a nice development that they went through as characters, but individually they each learn new things about themselves. So it was a very rewarding experience, and it's one of those things where I'm excited to see if they do another movie. I'll definitely go watch it because it was an easy watch. It never felt cumbersome at times. I never really felt like looking at the watch. It's a movie that flew by, and honestly, because I looked at my time at the end of the movie, I'm like, oh, it's been I felt like the time kind of flew by. So it's a movie that I feel like if you have kids or if you're a family, you want to go see it. Go see it. You'll probably be able to see it multiple times and not have to worry about getting bored of it, because there is a lot that happens, especially in the third act of the movie, but it's never overwhelming. And the way they wrap everything up at the end, they kind of bring it back and ground everything in characters, which is always the best thing.
Oh, I love. Okay, this is good. You never, I don't know. I personally never really walk into any sort of cartoon movie of any kind expecting a whole lot. And that leaves room for me to be pleasantly surprised sometimes. So that's, I love to hear it. Maybe I will go see that.